As an academy owner, you work hard to build trust with your students, their parents, and your community. But trust isn't something you claim, it's something you prove and earn. That's where Academy Safe comes in. We help academies like yours stand out with verified safety standards. Background checks for all staff, U.S. Center for Safe Sport certification, concussion training, defibrillators on site, CPR, first aid and AED certification, security cameras, rank and lineage checks, and verification of business insurance. Join the trusted martial arts registry that's redefining safety throughout North America. Lead by example. Show parents you're accredited with Academy Safe.
Hello, and welcome to My Empty Hands, a podcast about the martial arts, typically focused on Kenpo, but we give love to all the various arts here. As always, I am Reggie Darden, and today I have another wonderful guest with me, Restita DeJesus, and I probably butchered it as I tend to do, but is our guest for today, and we're going to get into her story and her journey and all the wonderful things that we usually talk about here. I usually start things off with just giving a little bit of my background. I currently train in 5 different martial arts at this point. American Kenpo being the primary. I also train in Capoeira, Hapkido, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and Muay Thai. I also have some experience doing some Taekwondo and a little bit of boxing as well. So as I always say, I stay busy but I can't say no. If somebody wants to let me train in something, then I'm probably going to say yes. So that's a little bit of my background there. But we will turn it over to our esteemed guest here and ask the question that I always ask: how did the martial arts find you, and where did it all start? And we'll go from there.
Well, first off, thanks for having me on the show, Reggie. I'm really excited to be here. And your martial art history sounds a lot like mine in different different styles of martial arts. But my history started back in 1977 or 78. I don't remember how old I was, but I do know I was young, and I grew up loving the old Kung Fu TV series from the 1970s. And I thought to myself, wow, wouldn't it be great if something like that really existed? Right now, at that time, I was completely ignorant of any Kung Fu or karate in the Seattle, Washington area where I'm from, which so happens that there was a Kung Fu school already in business during that time, but I had no idea. Um, but one day, my mother came home from a community center, and she said, "Hey, the community center down the road is offering free karate lessons. Do you and Diana want to go?" So my sister and I went, "Wow, sure." Because, we grew up watching Kung Fu TVs, the Kung Fu TV series. And of course, we didn't know what the difference was between Kung Fu and karate at the time, but we thought, hey, it's martial arts. Let's give it a shot, right? So we went, and it was true. Everything was on a grant through my teacher. So the karate gis were free. The sparring gear at that time, which was minimal, was free. The lessons were free. And the grant lasted for about a year. And I immediately fell in love with it that first day. Immediately. Um, and I ended up being one of those kids that went home and practiced tying my belt so I wouldn't struggle with it on my second class. And just ate, lived, and breathed karate. Checked out every library book in the library, um, everything, and just went head in onto it. And I didn't stop since. Um, and since then, I had studied Kajukenbo, which is my primary art now, Iaido, Wushu, Tai Chi, and the Filipino martial arts. So yeah, and it's just been nonstop since then. And like you, if someone wants to teach me something, I'm always up for it.
Very nice, very nice. Now that very first school, do you know what particular style of
Mhm.
karate it was?
Yeah, it was called Butokukan Karate, not Budokan, but Butokukan, which is named after the old military college in Japan. And it's a lesser known style. In fact, in comparison to the amount of people that study, let's say, Shotokan or Gojuru, it's a lesser known style. There are dojos around the world, but it's not as widespread as all of the major styles. In fact, when I used to tell people as I got further in the martial arts, yeah, I did Butokukan karate. They're like, what? What's that? It's touted as a offshoot of Shitoru, sort of, because the lineage kind of goes through Shitoru, but the art itself before it became Butokukan under Shihan Yoichi Nakachi was known as Shinpuren. But when Yoichi Nakachi came to the United States, and since Shimpuren was kind of known to be kind of like a, how shall we, how shall I put it, kind of like a, not an assassin type thing, but more like, anyway, it was kind of like associated with like hitman kind of stuff.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Yeah, so, even though people in the United States would have no idea what Shinpuren was, there still were a lot of people of Japanese American descent or even from Japan that were in the United States because of World War II. So he didn't want that negative connotation, even though it wasn't really a, gangster type of a, type of a thing, or political type of a thing. He changed the name to Butokukan in honor of the Japanese military college in Japan. So, so I did that until about 1994, when I started, or no, I'm sorry, 1990, when I started studying Kajukenbo with Grandmaster Terry Faircloth. And I did both for a while. As I was studying Kajukenbo, I was teaching Butokukan, and a colleague of mine that was also in Kajukenbo was also teaching branch classes with Grandmaster Faircloth's permission at my dojo. And we went from there. And then in 1994, when I got my teaching certificate, we both decided to go full time with the Kajukenbo. So, and here we are.
Excellent, excellent. Now, was there anything in particular, any particular reason why you switch? Well, I mean, I already know that Kajukenbo is a lot of awesomeness. So, of course, we want to do that. But was there any specific kind of determining factor as to why to go to that full time?
Well, nothing negative happened in Butokukan. It was a wonderful foundation that I still refer back to, and I'm still great friends with a lot of my senseis and peers and colleagues. It's just that there came a point when I was walking in downtown Seattle with a friend, and it was kind of late at night. In fact, I think it was like New Year's Eve back in the
Excellent
late
timing, excellent
80s.
timing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
uh, back in the late 80s and stuff like that. And I thought to myself, wow, what if that guy walking up to us decided to attack us? And I questioned my ability to defend myself. Now, let me back up. That's not because Botokukan's techniques were um, bad or anything like that. Of course not. It wasn't bad, but I personally wasn't exposed to the street reality of self-defense. Um, much of our much of our waza was based on it was very traditional self-defense, like one-step sparring, two-step sparring, that kind of thing. And we did a lot of kumite. We did a lot of sparring. Um, but one day that night, I realized that kumite probably isn't going to save my life because of the number one lack of intentional contact. Now, as we know, when we're sparring, we want to use control, right? And we don't intend to smash our training partner in the nose or break their knee or anything like that. But I found that there was just something lacking in my training. And as the years went on, I found little bits that I felt were lacking in my studies, and that's why I continued to go on. But when but when we went to Kajukenbo, I pretty much already had a colleague slash business partner to help me with it. And I decided to offer Butokukan as a side class or a private class while starting my journey as a teacher in Kajukenbo. And as I said, I'm still great friends with all of my teachers and colleagues in Butokukan. And I still consider Butokukan my very foundation that got me where I am today. And it'll always be a part of me. It's just that I'm not active in teaching it. So,
Gotcha. I can relate to that. Makes sense. One of the things that you mentioned about the kind of the self defense aspect of it, I can relate to in that. While I love my Hapkido training, the comparison of the self defense techniques between that and American Kenpo, it's like there's so many there's
hmm
so many things different, and you can definitely see how Kenpo is more maybe self defense focused,
hmm
real world street self defense focused than a system like Hapkido, and just the way the techniques are kind of laid out, and the way that you execute them. I feel that it's more focused and more designed for real application. So not to say
hmm
that the other stuff doesn't work or anything. It's just, okay, this is what we were doing. This is what we had in mind for doing this in the beginning. So
hmm
uh,
Exactly.
I can see
Yeah.
that.
I'm a
So
firm believer.
we
Sorry.
oh, go ahead.
I was going to say that I'm a firm believer in that any martial art will teach you a specific skill, right? I mean, we all see online people um, talking smack about other martial arts, touting their own art as the only fighting art and stuff like that. However, what a lot of people I find tend to forget is that number one, they're not in the other person's head and they don't know why that person is studying that art. Like, for example, I do Tai Chi, right? So, of course, when I tell people I do Tai Chi, people will kind of, be kind of snarky and say, "Oh, do people attack you slowly?" And while I find that funny, that's what I hear all the time. And, and it's because of, the, I guess the myths and the stereotypes behind Tai Chi, that it's only for old people and that it's something that you do when you can't do whatever you're doing now, right? But I got into it because I found that there was a sense of, like, I guess, like inner flow, not outer flow, but inner flow that was missing from my training. There was a sense of, um, I guess, elegance in movement that I found was missing. And with anyone else studying a martial art, whether it's Hapkido or Iaido or Kyudo, stuff that, today's warriors might think are useless, there's a reason why each person studies it, whether it's for cultural aspects, whether it's for strengthening a particular skill that they might be lacking in, or to just delve into something that's completely different. So a lot of people just don't know why people get into arts, and when people do get into them, it's for their reasons and their reasons only. And if it helps them, then all the power to them. But all of this like style bashing that you see a lot these days, it's in fact, I posted something about this the other day. It's so fourth grade playground.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always funny to me that there is this style versus style and all this thing where not every style has the same goals. Not everyone trains for the same reasons, and it's and one art doesn't have everything for everybody. And
Mhm.
so it's always funny to say, oh, well, this wouldn't work on the street, or I would never do that in the street, or, well, maybe I'm not training for fighting in the street. Maybe I'm just training for my mental and emotional health, and or maybe I'm training because I'm a competitor and I want to compete in UFC or something like that. And so there's always these different reasons to train in any particular art or multiple arts, and
Mhm.
it's not one size fits all for everything. So those kind of
Exactly.
arguments are just silly waste of time. So
Exactly. And we see it a lot on social media. We see it a lot on YouTube and stuff like that. However, that's not to say that um that YouTube channels that actually expose, frauds and stuff like that. I'm not saying that channels like that are useless, because there are frauds out there that will take the good name of martial arts and like twist it mainly for financial gain, or twist it for their own egos or whatever. And for certain channels to call that out, I do find that's helpful, because it kind of takes away from the training aspect and the and all of the other stuff that martial arts teaches us. If someone touts themselves as a 15th degree supreme upper grandmaster, that
oh yeah,
does
oh
that
yeah,
does
I know
50
a few of
martial
those
arts,
folks.
and yeah, and I'm sure you've seen that, uh, those posts or YouTube videos about that one guy that has like, I don't know, like 100. He's like a 10th degree in 175 different martial arts and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, so anyway, channels that call that out, it's helpful, because it teaches us what not to do in the martial arts, and how not to like promote yourself just because you made up something or something. So anyway, that's neither here nor there.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you. I'll give a little shout out to a previous guest, Rob with McDojo Life,
Yes,
the guy that
yes. I
started
forgot
that
his
site.
name, because I was like McDojo, McDojo, and the Bullshido social media thing. Yeah, but I forgot his name. I'm like,
Exactly.
what's his name? What's his name? Oh my
Yeah,
god!
I know.
Shout out
He
to
was one of
him.
my early, he was one of my early guests, and I enjoy watching his content. I know a lot of people don't like him for the stories that he and stuff that he does, but I think it's important to get some of these fraudsters and things out there, just because they give a bad name to the martial arts, and and then the other side of it is catching all the pedophiles and things like that,
Right.
because martial arts is not regulated and or anything like that. I mean, anybody can come up with open a school and start teaching people, whether
Hmm.
they have credentials to do that or not. And there's nobody that's keeping an eye on that stuff. So I think the things that he's doing helps shine a light onto these things that we're not talking about. We're more chasing the stripes on the belt and that stuff,
Hmm.
versus trying to perpetuate and spread the arts and give good quality instruction and things like that.
Hmm.
So I like what he's doing. I like what he's doing.
Yeah, so do I. Shout out to you, Rob, wherever you are.
Very nice. Very actually. I mean, we're kind of going off on a rat hole, but that's what I do. So
You know.
listeners deal with it. But yeah, he's working on his he's working on his documentary. He's been working on this documentary for a number of years, exposing exposing the fraudsters and things like that. And
Hmm.
um, I believe it's taken a few different forms. It was going to be kind of like a documentary movie, and then I think it was then it's going to be like a series, and so
Hmm.
excited for that. He had a lot of setbacks kind of over the years trying to get it made, but it's finally kind of hitting the home stretch of getting done. So
Oh, good.
hopefully we'll be able to check that out real soon.
Very good.
So jumping back to your story, and we may kind of bounce around a little bit, but so we're at the point of your full on with Kajukenbo, and we'll maybe kind of get back to that. But I'm curious, when did some of the other arts that you trained in start working their way in?
Well, when I was in Kajukenbo, the Filipino martial arts was indeed part of the curriculum. In fact, almost all Kajukenbo schools have their own influence of the Filipino martial arts, whether it's Doce Pares, like what I do, or Balintawak, or Pikiti Tirsha, or whatever style. Like each Kajukenbo school has its own influence that they go by. So when Grandmaster Kakoy Cañete visited our school through Grandmaster Alda Cascos from the Kajukenbo One Hop Kendo style, brought Grandmaster Kakoy over to Grandmaster Faircloth's school. I was hooked because here's this, old guy basically wiping the floor, you know, with these big guys. And the way that his stick was so elusive in close quarter sparring, I was like, I have to learn this. Now, at that same seminar that I first met Grandmaster Kakoy at, I met my other teacher, Christopher Petrilli, who was also one of Kakoy Cañete's top students, but also was one of Dan Inosanto's students as well. In fact, he and another Dan Inosanto student, Burton Richardson, were roommates while they were studying together in California. Um, and when I found out that Christopher Petrilli lived right here in the Seattle area in the Renton suburbs, I was like, you gotta be kidding. There's a tie to Cacoy dos Aipares right here. And I didn't even know about it. And, that's Chris's way. He taught out of his garage. He didn't have a brick and mortar school. He didn't have like a bajillion shiny trophies in the window. He didn't have belts. He trained people that were interested in learning his method, which was a blend of the Danilo Santos Filipino martial arts and Danilo Santos Silat and the Silat of the Detuar brothers, as well as Cacoy dos Pares and other Filipino systems. He taught that blend, and I went in headfirst with it as well, and got teaching certification from him. And so I'm currently teaching that blend at my school as well. And that was when I started with the Filipino martial arts. I think it was 1992 or 93. All I remember is I was a blue belt in Kajukenbo at that time. And then soon after that seminar, I started studying with Christopher Petrilli. And then in 1996, I developed well, let me back up a little bit. In 1994, I developed uh, a kind of like a thing for Wushu related types of movements in my forms. Now, Grandmaster Faircloth's Kajukenbo forms were unlike the other branches of Kajukenbo, such as the original method or the Gaylord method and stuff like that. He he was like all about the flow. And when I discovered Wushu, I was like, wow, this is cool. So Grandmaster Faircloth and I developed tournament forms that were kind of a mix between our Chanfa one hop kendo blend and Wushu, and ran with it in the tournament circuits in the mid 1990s. And I did pretty well with that, but I was really wanting to learn Wushu, but I didn't want to move to California to do it. Um, and I was walking with a friend in Seattle's Chinatown, and I was actually saying, you know what would be cool? If there was a Wushu school right here in Chinatown. I don't live far from it. I live like a mile down the road. And, and we walked past this one old building and this little door. There was a little door inset into an old building. And in a small sign about this big, it said Chinese Wushu Tai Chi Academy. And I kind of looked at it and kept walking. I went, wait. And I backed up and I went, this must be a sign or something. Here I am talking about it, and there it is, Chinese Wushu Tai Chi Academy. Opened the creaky door and went up these stairs, and at the top of the stairs was my Wushu teacher, Master Hong Yijiao. And at that time, she was teaching about maybe 8 preteens and teenagers. And the second I came to the top of the stairs and looked over the railing, she did a butterfly kick, and it was absolutely beautiful. And I literally reached into my backpack and grabbed my checkbook because I was just going to pay no matter what. I was going to beg, please take me as a student. All right. So we waited until there was a break in class, and she, came by and said, hi, can I help you? And I was like, you're not going to believe this, but I was talking to my friend here about wanting to learn Wushu, and I walked by your door, and I've never seen this before. I know this school wasn't here. Well, turns out that she migrated to the United States in 1996, the beginning of 1996, and it was closer to spring. And she managed to get students through friends of friends and stuff like that. Um, and I was, well, me and my business partner, we were the first non friends of friends network students that were in there, and and dove into it head first again because I felt like at that time, I was missing a different sense of flow in my kung fu. So I decided to do wushu, um, and then about a year later, Master Hong asked me, "Do you want to become a coach?" And I said yes. And then I'll always remember these words. Okay, well then you'll have to trust me. And I went, oh my gosh, what does that mean, right? So anyway, she got about like 8 of us together, and then she told us, okay, she asked us, do you want to train Chinese way or the American way? And of course, we all went Chinese way. Well, because of that, only 2 of us graduated. Everyone else quit. And the funny thing is the other gentleman that graduated with me was also a Kajukenbo practitioner. So I just thought that was really funny that 2 Kaju people, uh, excelled in the Wushu instructorship program at Chinese Wushu Tai Chi Academy, and I still teach that as well. And the the neat thing about that curriculum was that she wanted to make us a well-rounded coach. It was supposed to be a 1 year intensive program. It was literally 6 a.m. in the morning until 12 p.m. at noon, 6 hours every day, 7 days a week. But then after a while, she said, "Okay, we can take Sundays off." All right.
Oh, how nice.
Yeah, I know, right? Because I was literally sore for about 2.5 years straight. So she had to
I'm
extend
sore
the
just hearing
program.
about it.
Yeah. She had to extend the program to about 2 years, because she realized that she wasn't going to be able to get the quote unquote 10 years of training in 1 year. That was not possible. Um, so she extended the program to 2 years, and got my instructorship in that. It included Tai Chi. Uh, uh, Let me back up. It included a comprehensive introduction into Tai Chi. So we learned, the 24 form, and in Yang style 32 form, Chen style, um, uh, tournament 56 form, stuff like that. And that's what really got my interest up in Tai Chi. I realized that there was another thing missing from my training, and that was that sense of inner flow. So, so
Yeah, it's
got
just like
into that.
I said in the beginning. It's the martial arts finds you. You're talking about something, and then a school pops up for that, and the right kind of teacher that has those right little missing pieces all converge and come in where they need to. So yeah, I don't say that we choose the martial arts chooses us, and those styles that we need come in when we need them, and those teachers and stuff come when we are in the right place for them to be in our lives. So
Exactly. It was unbelievable. It was like something out of a movie, right? Where I'm talking about it and then bam, I see the sign. And it was a little one too. There was no big sign on the outside of the building. It was just a little one in the window of the door, and I was like, "Whoa, this is a sign." So I had to listen to that and go up those stairs rather than laugh it off and keep walking, because if I had done that, then yeah, then I think that part of me would be missing today. And who knows where I would have been today if I didn't do that. But I know that I did learn a lot from that. And the Tai Chi, in and of itself, taught me how to kind of go with the flow during tough times. I had injured my back severely in 2001. It was during fall, in Wushu of all things, and I had subluxated my back bad enough to where it bruised my spinal cord, and it resulted in about 2 years of peripheral neuropathy. And the pins and needles that I felt every day was incessant. It was so painful to the point where I was crying because I couldn't like go to sleep. It hurt to stand, it hurt to sit. Um, and my neurologist took every test necessary to find out what was going on, rule out MS, to rule out spinal cord tumors, and everything everything checked out. So she just kind of ruled it as like I bruised the spinal cord, even though the MRIs and the CAT scans didn't really show anything, because I didn't see a neurologist until approximately maybe 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks later. Chiropractic didn't work, massage didn't work. Um, but when I told my teacher about it, she said, "Okay, no more wushu." And it really broke my heart at that time, because I was training for the world championships, the world wushu championships, as my last retirement hurrah, so to speak, before I would retire from all competition and just coach wushu. And I was determined to come back with one of three places, right? But all that training had to go out the window when I injured myself because it was hard to hold anything. It was hard to hold a staff, hard to hold a sword. It hurt to move quickly. So Master Hong said, no more wushu, concentrate on your Tai Chi. And I did. And that Tai Chi allowed me to really like focus inward and pay attention to where my body was moving in space rather than just doing the movements. And that's something that I think a lot of people don't realize when they hear the word Tai Chi. It's not just slow movement because you can't do something. It's an art where you really have to like focus on everything, your surroundings, where you are in space, what your body's doing at any time in order to keep that perfect alignment. And after some time just practicing on Tai Chi and doing acupuncture and herbal medicine as well as Western medicine, I slowly recovered. And one day I woke up without the pins and needles. However, since that since that injury, I do find that even now, if I sit too long, my arms and legs will start to feel the same. But all I have to do is move for about an hour and then it kind of calms down. Or if I take a fall, if someone throws me, I can tell if that's all the falling I'll do that day because the back will start to like scream at me and my fingers will start to tingle. And I'm like, there comes a point where being thrown is not going to be a thing anymore. But anyhow.
No, I'm right there with you. Doing both the Hapkido and the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. The falling and the throwing and stuff takes a toll, and especially if you have an injury that increases that damage, it adds up pretty quick. So yeah, definitely have to listen to your body and not push it too hard. Because then you can't train at all, and we definitely don't want that. So
Exactly.
I'm with you. So I wanted to. I love doing this show because time always flies, and there's always so many things that I want to get to. But I do want to go ahead and talk a little bit about the teaching side of it. When did you get started with the teaching part of it, and was that something that was always an interest to you, or like many of my guests, it was thrust upon you? And
it was kind of both, wanting to and being thrust upon. When I was in karate, I was mainly focused as a color rank in the learning aspect of it, the learning and perfecting my movements and just getting really good with my basics. However, when I was a brown belt, I found myself helping a younger student with a kata. And I realized that the words came easily. And I realized, wow, this is something I could do. Right. But I still, at that point, I didn't say, I want my own dojo. I want to be able to be a teacher someday. I just knew that, okay, this comes easy to me. I hope I can be useful, right? And then when I tested for my Shodan in Butokukan, literally the following week, my sensei gave me a beginner class. And I was like, what? It was the start of a new quarter at the community center. So there was a whole bunch of new people. And then what they did is they took the activity room divider, and they put it across the thing, and I had my own little dojo on one side of the activity space. And that's when I thought to myself, holy crap, how do I start? Because I really didn't remember how I started. I don't remember the first class because I was too, oh my gosh, this is so cool, right? So I had to kind of come up with that first day's curriculum on the fly because nobody had any experience. And because it was a community center, it was a mixed class. So there were kids and adults. Kids, as young as age 7 to adults as old as like 35 or 40. And I thought, well, I had two thoughts actually. How do I start these people? And number two, will these grown-ups take me seriously? Because I was only 16 when I got my Shodan. Um, so it took it took about 3 months for me to kind of find my groove, find my teaching style, and find that mix of um, strict protocol and me, which is kind of lighthearted and I like to smile and joke around. And I liked to take drills and modify them so that way they were kind of gamified, but not really. It was still teaching you a specific, skill, but there was a goal and there was a, healthy sense of competition between you and another team or you and your, opponent or whatever. And from there, I just had to figure out how I can expand on that style of teaching and find my own because as we all know as martial art teachers, if you teach exactly like your teacher did, it's not going to come across the same way. It's not. I tried. And it's not going to come across the same way that your own teacher was experienced by other students. Like I tried it and I looked ridiculous. So I kind of had to find that different way that that was me. And even now I have two students that are getting ready for their black belt test this year. And I have to remind that of them. Don't necessarily teach like I do. Find your own way. Find your own way to do it. As long as you don't sacrifice the fundamentals, and as long as you keep the standards of the art. So, but it was hard. It was like boom. Here's the class. Here you go. You just got your Shodan like over the weekend. It's Monday. Let's have you teach it. It's like, wow, okay. And to this day, I don't know if my sensei did that on purpose or if that was something that was expected of all the Shodans. And if that was the case, then I guess I would have wanted to expect a little bit of warning before that.
Well, I think all the teachers, I think deep down they know who can handle it and who can't, and they're not gonna give that responsibility to someone unless they believe that they were ready. And even if it's a requirement or not, they still know when to thrust it upon you. Or so I believe that they knew you were ready for the challenge. So
Well, I'm glad that Sensei Gurney thought that I was ready for that. However, I'll have to add that I was a little bit insecure for that first year because I was so young. Like I said, I was 16. Well, I got my uh, black belt at like 15 and a half, but I'll say 16 as the start of my teaching career. And teaching adults was hard because I mean, you know, parents that have kids that are teenagers, it's kind of hard to look at another teenager as that authority figure sometimes. I'm not saying that's the case with all adults, but it is hard. It's kind of like how many people would feel if they had to take instruction from like let's say an 8-year-old black belt, right? In the back of our minds we would say, "Wait a minute, is this kid ready? Is this kid knowledgeable? You know, is this kid going to be able to teach me what I need?" Right? There's that was the insecurity that I had, was that grown-ups at that time would not take me seriously. And and it didn't help that I looked young as well. At 16, I looked like I was 13, and at 21, I looked like I was 16. So it was like there was always this, are these adults going to take me seriously? I'm young and I'm a woman, and back then in the 70s and late 70s and 80s, it the Beacon Hill area of Seattle wasn't um it wasn't like macho man type stuff or anything like that, but society as a whole, it isn't what it is today where a lot of things are accepted. Um and back then it was, at least in my area, it was still very, traditional gender role modeling. Um and to have this young woman with a black belt, shouting orders at a bunch of adults. Um, I was kind of insecure about it, even though I was doing it. But I realized that no one could take the skill that I learned from my teachers. And I still think that today. No one can take away the skills that I have. And that's something I should be proud of, that my own teachers trusted me enough with the material to be able to allow me to teach it. So since then, I've gotten over that insecurity.
Very nice, very nice. Yeah, I can. I definitely understand. Maybe this isn't exactly the right term, but I'll just apply it to myself. Kind of the imposter syndrome a little
Mhm.
bit. I mean, I've been doing martial arts formally since the early '90s, and I still have those kind of feelings like, oh, am I really ready for this? I mean, I taught capoeira classes for a lot of years. I'm getting into teaching the Kenpo side of things a bit, but just being in different classes and different seminars and different things like that with other black belts and things like that, and uh, I feel if I have something that I can impart to someone, I'll still do it. But then there's a little bit of me that's like, oh well, I don't have my black belt, and this person's a fifth degree black belt, and what can I teach them? But everyone, we all can teach and learn from each other. So there doesn't need to be that feeling. I mean, if you've done the work, you've done the work, and
Mhm.
and that should come forward. But there's still that little idea, that little feeling that creeps in sometimes. It's like, I'm not sure I know what I'm doing. Oh, only I've been doing this for 25 years, but am I
Mhm.
really sure about that? So I think we all have those moments. So nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and I think also for other teachers out there that are new to teaching or are going to be testing for their black belt, if I want to say to them, if you feel that way, um, there's not only the insecurity of, am I ready for this, right? It's it's kind of more of, am are my skills ready for this? We all question our own skills, and sometimes I still do, and to hear from my own students, oh, that looked great. Well, and then in my head, of course they're going to say that. You know, you know what I mean? And the imposter syndrome, um, that's a good way to put it, because we all are creatures of validation, right? And unfortunately, what we believe, whether good or bad, we're always going to seek that kind of a validation to support that. So, one thing that I'm trying to teach my students now, especially the ones that are going up for black belt, is if you have any negative thoughts about your own skills, you're going to seek things that will support that. Whether that's self deprecating humor, well, that comes from somewhere. It's not just joking around. That comes from some sense of truth in a way that you feel about yourself. Um, So I have to tell them, focus on your skills, focus on where you were, where you are now. Do you see a difference? If so, you made progress. There's no need to compare yourself to other students or to other black belts that came before you, because that's something that might actually be something that students do is they'll compare their training for black belt to, you know, another black belt in the studio that got their black belt, 5 years ago. Oh my gosh, I remember his test. I don't know if I'm going to be as energetic as he is. Well, it's not his test. It's yours, right? So, that's one little thing I want, my students and hopefully other new black belts to learn is that, you know, insecurity is fine. And asking yourself, "Oh my gosh, am I ready for this?" But telling yourself, "I don't think my skills are good enough for this." That's something completely different. That's something that, you know, you gotta really dig down deep and consider before you even think about taking a teaching position. So anyway,
No, very well said. Very well said. I like it, and it leads perfectly into the next item that I want to get to before we move into our lightning round here. And
nice.
that is, since there isn't a standard a template for being a black belt, what it takes to be a black belt, what it means to be a black belt. There's all kinds of stories out there in all the various arts about, oh, well, this guy got his black belt in way too short a time, or
Oh yeah.
this black belt is conducting themselves in this way or that way, and just all these different things on that. I decided that I wanted to start asking my guests in your opinion, what your thought process, what it means to be a black belt, what it means to earn a black belt, or conduct yourself as a black belt. Just kind of your thoughts about being a black belt. What does that kind of entail to you?
I'm a firm believer in that black belts or the journey to black belt. I'll back up a little bit. I'm a firm believer in that the journey to black belt is how you discover ways to become a better member of your community, a better person overall, self perfection, so to speak, even though there's no such thing as perfection. Um, and when you become a black belt, to be a representative of how to become a member of the community, a good member of the community, to be a positive member of the community, to be a good example for others. Um, Always a firm believer in that because I've only been brought up with good examples. My senior classmates were always a good example of etiquette and manners and being able to get through hard times and get through those times where you're questioning yourself or not feeling confident and stuff like that. And I credit all of my seniors and all my teachers for helping me through that. So what saddens me nowadays is to see black belts that are rude, that are condescending to other people from other arts. To see black belts saying you're doing it wrong when that really means is you're not doing it my way. Right? It saddens me to the core because when I was coming up in the 70s and 80s in karate, there were two kung fu schools nearby, a Hungar school and a Tole Fut school. And here in Seattle, they're very well known. And the people from Butokukan, and at that time, Butokukan was the prevalent style of karate in Seattle, taught at all of the community centers. Um, the kung fu schools and us from Butokukan, we would befriend each other and share and hang out and just have a great time. Whereas now it's kind of like well, I'm not going to teach you until you pay me $1,500, or, stuff like that. Or putting down people for studying something that isn't realistic according to their standards. It, it, it's shocking, it's saddening, and it makes me wonder who taught them. And if they did have a good example of an instructor, where did they get this attitude? It's not a good example if they teach kids or adults, right? And I teach a healthy mix of kids and adults, so I'm always trying to be a good example for those kids. And any upper ranked student that wants to volunteer to be a kid's assistant, I have to make sure that they're also a good example for the kids, that they're patient, that they can use their words in a way that can break down movements for a kid and an adult for that matter. Um, but it. In fact, this morning I saw something on Facebook about people like coming down on one person or whatever, and I literally felt my heart rate go up. I started to get kind of like frustrated and ah, what are they doing type of thing, right? And and it just so happened it was someone that I knew that that was being insulted. So that kind of added to my heart rate going up. So when I stood up for him, people told me to get lost from the group. Get lost unless you're one of them too, that kind of thing. And I was just like, oh, you don't want to go there. You don't want to debate, right? And the thing is what I found with a lot of black belts that tout their expertise on social media is that they will talk smack about people they don't even know. They'll just hear something from somebody that they respect or read something that was given to them by someone they respect. And most times people will talk smack because they want to remain in good graces with that person. They want to be on the bandwagon, right? But God forbid if someone says otherwise. Oh, you're not part of the club now, so get out of here. you know, and that's kind of what I was made to feel like, and I had to leave that particular group. But as a whole, these are black belts that took the time on their own to become better for themselves, better enough to become a black belt. And now this, you know, makes me wonder if the definition of black belt had changed over the last 30 years. I didn't think it did. So that but that's what I think a black belt should be, a good example of the community, a good example of their art, and a good example that is willing to share with other people and to work with other people to share that skill rather than say do it this way. Learn to adapt the art to the person rather than adapt the person to the art. Anyway, that's kind of my
I like
take.
it. I like it. No, very well said. I like it. All right, so we are going to move into our lightning round here. We've got a few little questions as we wrap up our time for today.
Okay.
The first one being, do you have a favorite technique?
Oh my gosh. Back fist.
Nice. I like it. All right. Next question. Do you have a favorite form and or set?
In Kajukenbo, my favorite form, well, it's actually Shaolin Kung Fu, but it came through to me in Kajukenbo. It's Lohan Shibafa, 18 hands of Lohan. In Karate, it's Pinyon Godan. And in Wushu, it's Nantuan.
Nice. I like it. I'll have to do my homework and look up all those. They all sound familiar to me, so I'm sure I've seen them all at least.
Yeah.
But I'll have to look specifically up for them to get refreshed on which one's which. But yeah, those sound great, and I like it. All right. Next question. Do you have a favorite weapon?
Spear.
Ah, nice.
Spear and eskrima stick.
Nice. No, for me, staff is probably number one, and then spear is probably number two for me. So
Nice.
I like it. I don't come to think of it, I don't think any of my other guests have ever mentioned the spear. So that's I'm in good company. So I like it. All right. Next question. If there's anyone that you could train with, living or dead, fictional or non-fictional, I usually frame this besides Ed Parker because this is primarily a Kenpo show, but I will leave it open to anyone since you've got multiple styles under your wing there.
Living or dead. My great-grandfather was Santiago Toledo, who was the founder of the Toledo style of eskrima. And I know that Dan Inosanto had briefly trained in that particular system, but it was primarily basics. And I haven't had a chance to ask Guru Dan about that. And there are no more masters that are alive that I know of that carry that system. So if I could even just spend 3 days with Santiago Toledo just to learn the basics, that's what I would do.
Very nice. I like it. All right. Then our final question here, something motivational, but whether that be something that motivates you to train or something that you want to put out there to motivate others to train. What is that? So I use the example of the movie Rocky IV. There's the training montage. He's running through the snow.
Yeah.
He's chopping the wood. He's lifting boulders and stuff. The music's going. Anytime I watch that scene, I'm ready to get out there and train. So what is something like that for you, or something that you want to put out for the listeners?
Yeah, my own students are the ones that motivate me to keep learning and to stay in shape. I'm gonna be 60 very soon, and I can feel the bones creaking and the back popping, and the joints in my hands starting to feel weird and stuff like that. But I realize that I won't be able to teach at my full capacity if I don't keep in shape, if I don't keep healthy. So that's my motivation, and when I see that light of, oh my gosh, I got this, when they're struggling with a move, I finally got it. Yeah, that's what does it for me. That's what motivates me.
I love it. I love those moments. I got to experience a few of those in my years, and just seeing when the student gets it and it clicks, and yeah, that look is like no other. So I like that. All right, so we are now at our very final piece of business for our time today, and that is shameless self-promotion. So you can plug anything that you would like, or if there's anything that we hadn't talked about that you wanted to make sure that we got out today, you now have the floor, and then we will close from there.
Okay. Well, my school is in Seattle, Washington, Seattle Wushu Center. Website seattlewushu.org. And we teach Kajukenbo, Filipino Martial Arts, Chen style Tai Chi, Yang style Tai Chi, Wushu, and did I say Filipino Martial Arts? I don't remember.
You can
And
say it
Filipino,
twice.
yeah, I said it twice. And I do private lessons on the side for supplementary private lessons, but I also offer 3 extracurricular private lessons. I teach people how to do trick cracking with a bullwhip. I also
Ooh, nice.
teach target blowgun and target slingshot.
Oh, very
So,
cool.
and knife throwing. So
Ooh,
yeah.
looks like I need to make my way out there and join in on the fun.
Oh, it's so much fun. I've lately been getting a lot of appointments for the bullwhip cracking. And I'm like, where are people getting this, right? Because normally I'll probably do a bullwhip lesson, and it's just the general public that'll just randomly contact me. I want to learn how to crack a bullwhip. I probably have one like maybe once a month, but like I've had like over the break, people are like are asking for bullwhip lessons. So like the second week, is it next week? The second week of January, I've got like three of them going, and it's kind of like, oh my gosh, what's going on? So knife throwing's a big one too. A lot of people, like to do the knife throwing. They'll probably, get like a little package for, 4 or 5 people for their kids, for their birthdays or something like that. And when I say kids, I mean kids that are like 10 years old and above, no one under 10, uh, that kind of thing. Blowgun. I haven't had much blowgun stuff over the last year or so, but I hope to change that. And that's about it.
Very nice, very nice, very nice. All right. Well, yes, as I say with just about all of my guests here, I mean, there's so many things that I want to get into, but we can't have a 25-hour show, so we will definitely have to do a part 2 and 3 and 4 and so on. So you have a open invitation to be on the show anytime. And we'll definitely get into more of those other spots in your journey. But I thank you so much for taking the time to share your story, and I can't wait to get this out for everyone to hear. And just once again, I thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for listening to My Empty Hands. If you enjoyed the show, please share it with a friend. If you didn't enjoy it, please share it with an enemy. If you'd like to be a guest, or if you would like to recommend a guest for the show, please email me at podcast@talkingkenpo.com. Thank you.